And the big hit for the Yankees, a Bucky Dent 3-run home run. All Bucky was trying to do was make contact with the ball.
I was just looking to hit the ball somewhere to score a run, because I felt like with Rivers coming up behind us, anytime he comes to the plate with men on base, he's a threat because he can run. And I was just hoping that I could drive a run in and hope that Mickey could drive the next run in.
But Bucky took care of all of it himself. He drove in 3 runs, and of course Reggie Jackson also hit one out. The losing pitcher and a guy the Yankees like to beat, Mike Torres. The Yankees feel that he badmouthed them after he left the Yankees last year and signed the big free agency contract at Boston. Torres realizes somebody's got to lose every game, big as it may be.
There has to be only one winner, and unfortunately, they came up on top. We won it this bad. We gave it the best that we had. I pitched as good as I could. It's a game of inches, and the ball just made it into the net probably about 5 inches.
But that was all it took for Bucky Dent to hit a 3-run home run. Jim Beattie will face Dennis Leonard in the first game of the American League playoffs tonight. The first 2 games taking place in Kansas City. Today and tomorrow, the best-of-5 series ends up at Yankee Stadium. The National League playoffs between the Dodgers and the Phillies opens tomorrow night at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. The Phillies are an underdog, a very slight one, in that series. The Dallas Cowboys, through 5 weeks of play in the National Football League, are 5-0 on the year and have a 2-game lead over their arch-rival, the Dallas Cowboys. Last night at RFK Stadium in Washington, 3 Mark Mosley field goals and superb defense carried the Redskins to a 9-5 win over Dallas. Coy Bacon, defensive end for the Redskins and an ex-Cowboy, was on the sidelines as the final seconds ticked away. How did Coy Bacon feel about it?
Well, great. We are number 1, baby, number 1. Hey!
And that they are right now, along with Pittsburgh and Los Angeles. Those 2 clubs are unbeaten through 5 weeks of play. Not so good in Cincinnati. That team was expected to be a contender, as you know. Bill Johnson, the head coach, was given a vote of confidence just 1 week ago after the Bengals lost their 4th straight game. And as the votes of confidence come, so do the pink slips, and Bill Johnson got his yesterday. Out he goes, and assistant coach Homer Rice has been named to take over the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Houston Oilers offensive coordinator Ken Shipp resigned yesterday. He'd been odds with at quarterback Dan Pastorini over who's right and who's wrong with some poor play calling. And here's John.
Don, I have to admit that I'm one of those baseball fans who watches the World Series, but rather than watching the games day in and day out as the season progresses, but I tuned around yesterday afternoon like an awful lot of other people to watch that action up in Boston. And, you know, my impression was, not having seen either one of the teams play to any great degree during the season, my impression was that the Yankees were tremendously confident. They were just kind of sitting back waiting for it to happen, as if they knew that eventually, before the 9 or 10 innings or whatever was over, they would start to unload on Boston and win the game. Didn't you have that feeling?
Well, you hate to keep using one term, but the Yankees just have a championship fiber to them. Like the Oakland Raiders in football, somehow they make it happen. They were down 2-0. Torres was pitching extremely well. He got in trouble a couple of times. And all of a sudden, Dan hits a high fly ball, and we're waiting for it to hit the wall, and all of a sudden it disappears, and the Yankees are in the lead, and the whole thing goes the other way. And you almost, as you say, the Yankees kind of expected it to happen. Then Jackson rapped one out. Then Boston, with a championship fiber of their own, came right back, but not quite far enough. So the Yankees, who know how to win, do it again. Amazing.
Bucky Dent uses about only half the bat that normal people use. He chokes that thing up around halfway up the handle.
Bucky's a guy who can field. As far as batting, he's just happy to be here, takes his 3 swings, and sits down pretty often. He's only about a 40 hitter this year.
Well, he sat down yesterday after circling all the bases, and that's the best way.
That's the only way.
It's time to get tough on crime in New York. Far too often, we've worried about the rights of the criminal and left
star Ron Guidry and perhaps get 2 games out of him in this crucial series. But that all changed when the Yankees wound up in a tie with Boston for the Eastern Division title, and they had to call on Guidry yesterday. And so it's Beattie, the young right-hander, getting the chance of a lifetime. He finished 6-9 on the regular season, but he looked good in the closing stretch, changing his pitching style after a short trip to the minors back in June. The Royals are going with the right-hander Dennis Leonard, 21-17 on the season, and a tough man to beat here in his home stadium. This is the 3rd straight matchup between New York and Kansas, with the Yankees winning the 2 previous playoff series 3-2, and the world champions are hoping to make it 3 in a row. Stan Brooks, 10-10 wins in Kansas City.
Pre-game on WINS at 8:15, and hear all the action. 25-game winner Ron Guidry has been named the American League's Player of the Month for September. The ace left-hander won 5 games and had 3 shutouts, and helping the Yankees catch the Red Sox in the American League East. 2 of his shutouts came in consecutive starts against Boston. For the 5th time in the last 4 years, Bobby Bonds has been traded. The Texas Rangers sent the outfielder along with pitcher Len Barker to the Cleveland Indians in exchange for relief pitcher Jim Kern and infielder Larvell Blanks. Bonds belted 30 homers and stole 43 bases this season. It's the 5th time in his career that he's hit 30 homers and stolen at least 30 bases in the same season. Toronto Blue Jays have acquired designated hitter Rico Carty from the Oakland A's for cash. Carty slammed 30 homers and knocked in 98 runs. He started the year with the Blue Jays before being sent to the A's in midseason for Willie Horton. Red Sox third baseman Butch Hobson will undergo surgery tomorrow for removal of bone chips in the elbow of his throwing arm. Hobson was bothered with the injury all season, and it contributed to many of his major league leading 43 errors, mostly the result of bad throws.